Hello and welcome.
Long time no see, everyone.
In progress.
Welcome to the open hour. And give people a chance to get on and we will get started. Welcome to the SALT Community Open Hour. My name is Sage Robbins. I am the program manager for the SALT project. And I will be hosting today. And I have no slides. So I hope people will forgive me. I don't know if people even care if I have slides, but I guess I care. I feel behind, so can forgive me for that. Welcome, welcome. Happy Thursday, happy Thursday. I have a kind of loose agenda. Since I have no slides, because I did something else yesterday besides a slide deck. And I will show that off today.
It's pretty amazing.
Well, it's okay. So I'll go ahead and share and we'll go ahead and get started. So today, we're going to do a really loose agenda. I don't have a lot of general updates besides we did not have our virtual meetup yesterday. Our speaker was actually out for personal reasons last minute. So we'll reschedule that, or we'll have that on April 21st, which is the next scheduled meetup. I'm not sure if it'll be sooner than that or if it'll be at that time right now, but we will let people know and we'll reschedule that. I don't have any other general announcements unless anybody else does on the core team. We'll go with no. So today, mostly what I wanted to talk about was some follow-up from the retrospective and some things on the website. So there are some changes here that I wanted to quickly go over. I was able to make some fonts a little bit bigger. I'm still working on some fonts, obviously, and doing some manual updates here, and I will continue to do that. I also was able to add a category up here with the blog post to just open hour. And some sticky things here are the open hour notes from last time that give you quite a bit of information on the retrospective. I did detail here the questions and responses and did do some extra expanded responses that we may or may not have said in the meeting. And I kind of want to go over some of those. But before I do, does anybody have any questions that don't have to do with the retrospective or other things that you would like to go over today? Okay, if not, we'll jump in.
I had one question about the RC that we've had it out a couple of weeks now, or a week at least. I was just wondering if we know if it's being used, people are testing it, or if we're getting any feedback on that.
We have had a few issues submitted, but other than that, I'd love to hear from people on the call. I think, Eric, you put in a comment that you were able to just kind of quickly do a brush through and thought things looked okay.
Well, yeah, at least in the limited amount that I was able to do, there's a lot of startup noise and loader failures that we have been noticing in prior. We haven't been able to move past the 3000.x just because we still have to support CentOS 6, sadly. But yeah, a lot of the noise is down from the 3002, and you know, and then that was better in that respect than 3001, and just the limited grouping of states that I threw at it worked fine. But I do by like third quarter this year, I hope to have a small lab of to evaluate Python 3, at least on the CentOS 7 boxes, and should be able to do a more comprehensive battery of testing for releases at that point.
Cool. Yeah, thank you for that.
Hey, Eric, when you say loader failures, is there some specific issues that you're having?
Oh, well, these are mainly, these are not things that like necessarily break states and stuff. They're just like improperly handled modules, right?
Okay.
Modules that don't properly account for the fact that those third party or the optional dependencies, you know, that are required for those modules are present.
Right.
And then there's also so this is something that I don't think that can be necessarily avoided, but we noticed that on upgrading from one major release to another, where a new file was present, there would be like in the utils loader, there'd be some failures that happen because the utils are being sort of loaded as the modules reload, and so it's trying to load everything in the newly installed you know, whatever the salt/utils path, right? It's trying to load everything in there, and some of the things that it's pointing to don't exist. And I'm not sure that can be necessarily, avoided. But again, like that, this is like between when the install happens and when a service restart happens.
Sure.
So I don't know how important that even is to track down.
I see a lot of stack traces in Windows for the Boto modules, like the Dunder Virtual isn't handled properly, and I get stack traces on those when it's starting and when things are running.
Yeah, I think there's an open issue or two specifically around a few of those that if you were to do like a salt call and then look at the debug log output, you'll see a bunch of stack traces related to like Elasticsearch and like some AWS stuff when you're doing nothing with AWS, but it's because of just how, yeah, it must be the module imports that are adding that noise.
Yeah.
I can't recall if those loader, you know, like if tracebacks that happen, I think if a traceback happens in the process of a module trying to load, what level that is logged at. I don't know if it just gets logged in as error or if it logs as debug.
Yeah, I don't know, I'm running in debug mode, so I see them all.
I think a lot of it is in debug.
Yeah.
Shouldn't those just be warnings? And unless I'm misunderstanding.
Well, we expect that modules won't, there will be modules that won't load. That's why it's debug. The loader is super noisy when it comes to that stuff. So that's primarily why most of that stuff is debug.
Yeah, well, yeah, there's the messages when a module is explicitly not loaded via returning false. Or returning false with a tuple with an error message, but I think that the tracebacks might. I'd have to double check.
Yeah,
I
if
don't
there's
have
an import error, it'll probably be as error.
Yeah, those just get really obnoxious. But yeah, I mean,
Good feedback.
Sage, were we able to clarify? No, it was announced that you should have forward compatibility, so older master, newer minions, and then there was some question about whether that was actually true. Has that been clarified that that is supported for this release?
So generally speaking, it should be supported during testing, not as part of your everyday, production environment, if that makes sense. So that we're not super clear on that. And I think that we could probably be clearer. So, and please correct me if I'm wrong. DWAS, Bryce, Wayne, guys, if I'm saying anything incorrectly, we say that we generally support that during, the RC and to go and test it and to tell us what you're finding. We would like to have some of that parity, but we realize that some of that stuff's not totally capable. The issues that we did have logged against that were actually not necessarily about older master, newer minion. They were just a bug. So we haven't had anything specific just yet.
yeah, I
Although
think in the
imagine
past,
it's out there.
yeah, in the past, some of the CVEs have necessitated that the payloads are handled differently, right? And so newer minions will send information back to the master in a different format, and that has traditionally been the reason, not just CVEs, but just like hey, we want to expand functionality, et cetera, right? And you can't do that without breaking communication with older masters that don't know what to look for. So that's the one area where I don't know that there's really a good way around it.
And I think that's in the documentation under the frequently asked questions. We kind of go into a little bit more detail, and the way that that's written really errs more on the side of like a production, environment running salt. So we really err on that side of, well, it depends, and we really say that you should have, same versions. But when we go into testing, we'd love it if people that are testing could show us what they're seeing, because we would like to eventually get there. And there's some things we know we can't fix. So I think that's documented okay. I should probably look at that. Yeah, thank you, Derek, for putting that in the chat. And David used the RC on Windows and it seems fine so far. It's great. Anything else about the RC? So we're looking to release aluminum on the 31st. We will do a bug fix release to the CVE on March 23rd, Tuesday next week. I put that in a banner on the website so that hopefully people see that. I probably should put that in a more visual place, although we haven't shared that information previously except for in kind of a calendar, and we don't have that calendar any longer. And so I'm not sure that the calendar that we have is the best place for that. So I'm looking for a better way to communicate that. I haven't found it yet. Right now, I'm putting it on the banner and announcing it here and putting it in meeting notes. So that's probably not the best place, but it's where I've got it at the moment. So you can, from the homepage, you can get to this here through the top banner, and it's open hour. And then you can dive into a specific day. This is, I uploaded this yesterday, and this is the notes from last week's open hour. And in here, I give some more details on the question and answer. And I wanted to go through some of these, at least those that I had some expansed responses to. And I also need to get a report on this out, and we'll be putting this in there along with everything that is also in the issue for the asynchronous communication. And we'll be putting some of these answers or parts of these answers into the issue so that it has some parity. Oh, thank you, Shane. So to go over this, we were asked, have you considered whether you should or could be looking at issues around this CVE proactively? And we said that we were, and some of the things that we've been doing and getting better test results. A little bit of an expanded response to that is that we do have 2 working groups now that we split out. There's the test and the release. The test needs a captain and some people to join that so that we can really focus just on testing. Not just testing during a release, but testing in general. There will be some overlap between those and probably some other groups as well. So we are looking at a way to get the captains together so that they can discuss and then disseminate that information back to their groups, sort of a group of groups, like a scrum of scrums. Some of that will be in here. I'm not going to go over these one by one, but these are here. And so just to kind of give me a guide. There is some more details on exactly what happens the day of that I give here. And if we want to get into that, we can. You can also read it and ask me questions. A lot of it was also said sort of ad hoc, but I explained it fully here. There was a mention on coordination with the OS vendors, and yes, we will be doing that. The expanded responses that the release working group has already made some efforts towards coordinating that, and their next meeting is on the 14th. So if anyone here or anyone watching is part of that, OS vendors that are packaging, please join us for that. This is more about working groups. We were talking about input, and we were asking for people's help and for people to be involved. There will be some more details coming about how we're going to do the group of groups and how we're going to disseminate that information. Right now, we have a planning meeting every Friday, and we've considered opening that up and then coordinating schedules for when the captains could attend that sort of monthly. We don't think it needs to be weekly for them. Although we would welcome people. And we would like to get people who are interested in being captains over those working groups that could give a little bit of their time. It's about probably a little bit more than an hour a month to work on those. And then depending on what other commitments and tasks you're willing to take on those. Eric, did you have a question? I'm sorry.
No, I did email you in regards to the CAB, and I did engage on the SEP last week.
Okay, thank you. That's awesome. I haven't had a ton of response from that. And so we're just not sure if that's actually the way that we need to go. We'll continue to keep that step open and we may even approve it, but not necessarily implement right away if we don't have a ton of people that are willing to commit to be on the cab as members. And that's fine. We think that there's also some other ways that we can go. And that's working groups participating in the open hours, maybe holding some more clinics and doing some more code jams. And so we'll continue to look at those things as well. Let's see. And then down here, I do still have some pending actions. And these are still pending as of today. So putting things into a report, making that available to people. And then some different things that also will need to be put into the work groups themselves to have actual tasks be done. So we're going to change our policy on releasing. Used to be that we used to just not release on a Monday or Friday. And now we're going to limit that to Tuesday and Wednesday, and we won't do Thursday anymore. That was just some feedback that we got. And I think that that's valid because it would end up being Friday for people around the globe. So we need to update our documentation for that. And then we need to put that out. Let's see what else. Any updates to the CV reporting process and to make that more seamless. We have some ideas. And so we want to work with the security working group and then of course, just within the core team as well. And then expose that process as we make changes. So those are still some pending things as well. Some preventative measures such as code analysis and its use and updates to pull request reviews. That of course all needs to be documented and then iterated upon. And so there's still some outstanding tasks there. And define more collaborative opportunities between the work groups. So that's that group of groups that we're talking about. So we need to define that and then expose that as well. And then enhance the platform support page and OS support document, as well as create more visibility around those. We have a plan going forward to make some major updates there. It probably won't happen in Silicon as we're starting to go through planning, just due to other priorities and resource time. But we have some ideas there, and we'll probably start looking at that with the docs working group and start honing in on that. And then more communication about what versions will be addressed in CV releases. That is where we talked about we're only going to follow our policy. We won't be doing patches all the way back unless something large comes in, and we would then communicate out that that's happening at that time. But for now, we're going to follow our policy and we'll communicate that as such and continue to communicate. I'm thinking we'll do a blog post. We may even do something on Salt Air. And we'll continue to make that visible here in the open hour, what our policy is and what we are supporting going forward. Then enhancing the CV release process to include more details in the documentation regarding what's affected and how. So this was actually heavily communicated in Slack. And this is something that's large, that would be a large change to the process. And we haven't, as a team, as a core team, really looked at that just yet. But I think that we're in agreement that that could be better. And so we'll continue to work with some working groups as we dive into what that looks like exactly. Any questions, comments, concerns? I will say that I am a little bit behind. I wanted to be further along in getting this into a report today, but I made something new.
And that's a non-zero amount.
I made this page yesterday instead of making that report. This page is just about working groups. And it gives you all the details on all the groups that we have, their Zoom IDs, some dates, some of their captains and like their Slack channels. Some of them have project boards. There will be one for the docs working group that's coming. Formulas has their own org so that we link to that and we give you some dates out. We will also put some of these things in the events, the community events RSS if they cancel, so that people can see that. So this should give people a one place to kind of find out where you can get involved exactly in these working groups. I hope that this will be used. I hope people can find this. It is a subpage of the homepage of the saltproject.io website. And then we have the Kubernetes working group. Yay, Kubernetes. And they will have their first meeting on April 6th. And I will get a Zoom meeting ID. There's not one just yet this week, and communicate that out. I'll update this page and get something on the calendar for those of you that use the calendar. It should be out there. And we're going to talk about Kubernetes. Do I have the time on here? I do. It's at 10 a.m. Mountain, so 4 to 5 p.m. UTC. We're actually really excited about this, and we have some good ideas, and we would love for people to join us on this. I'm going to also try to talk to some people that are already working on Kubernetes, within VMware, and see if we can garner some support from them as well, and get some understandings from things that have worked for them. So I hope this is helpful.
Sage, this and the Open Hour blog and the What's Happening page are fantastic. Thank you for doing this.
Yay, you're welcome. I know I'm a little bit
going to
behind on the
reuse my
what's
joke
happening.
from earlier. Sorry, I was going to say I'm going to reuse my joke from earlier, but I'm going to point out, just for the benefit of everyone in the community hour, if you don't have pets, all those pictures depicting people working with their pets, no one's getting any work done there.
Oh wait, that's not where I want to go. I wanted to go back to this one. Right, so this gal, she's not getting any work done.
No, nothing's getting done there. They're watching YouTube videos of dogs.
This guy
This
with
poor
his cat
guy
and
with
his
his
dog.
dog and his cat, nothing happened. They're buying dog and cat treats right there.
Okay, scroll down to the bottom one though. That one.
He's not getting anything done. He's playing Among Us. That's what he's doing.
He's bringing up a game on his phone to give to the
That's
kids
right.
so he can get some work done.
So it looks like his kid is ready to start typing.
I was going to say that I have several kids, and that's about 2 seconds away from that kid yanking that laptop either closed on your fingers or off the desk or smashing on it.
Yeah, this stuff right here, this is high risk right here.
Yeah.
See, I interpreted this one differently. I read this as like the guy is they're playing on his phone and the kid is writing tests
That's
for his
right.
PR.
That seems reasonable.
As he should be. Gotta have those tests.
That's right.
How dare I assume?
Yeah, his PR is
what
not
is
getting
going
in
on.
without tests.
When we were in lockdown, I gave my daughter a spare keyboard so that she could pretend she was helping. So,
Nice.
but did not do the lab thing because that would not work.
Yeah, that's actually literally why my children ride on my shoulders, because they wanted to be like close, but if they were not behind my head, their arms were much too long and they would just grab whatever I was working on and onto the floor it went.
Yes. Yes. Well, good. I hope that this is helping people, and we would love to see more involvement from the community and really dive into these. We have really great things going on with this release working group. And we even have quite a bit of stuff for this test working group that it just needs a captain and some bodies. And of course, a lot of these are really great. I am actually really excited about the security working group. It does need a captain. I have a charter that Barney wrote for us that is looking really great. And I think this is going to be a really cool group. We just need to figure out the time that we're going to meet. And I may just get that done in the next week. And we'll meet and figure out who that captain's going to be. So I don't have anything else on the agenda besides question and answer and opening it up to people. Does anybody have any questions or comments or something you want to discuss?
I was looking through the contributing or the developer guide on the docs website, and I didn't see anything about tests. Since they're required,
Oh,
I was kind of wondering, did I miss that somewhere? Oh, I see unit and integration. Is that where I missed it?
I think that's where it is.
Okay.
We did recently do a lot of updates thanks to Wayne and Pedro and Derek and many others to the contributing guides, and also getting, so we had sort of like 5 contributing guides across several different names, and we combined those. And so it's really looking a lot better.
I could
And so
provide
hopefully
some,
that's,
I could provide some links, but
yeah,
it's our test documentation is spread out across a lot of different docs because it's kind of, we have a salts test suite and introduction, and then we have another doc that's salts test suite, and we have another doc that's integration test, and another doc that's ready unit test. And so there's just like, there's a lot of places. So I think I could provide the links, and they might differ on master. Again, this is we have a big problem with our docs right now where if you're on the latest branch, you're actually not really seeing the latest docs. You're really only seeing the documentation for the latest version of SALT that was released officially. And that doesn't include updates we've made to the contributing guide and updates we've made to the development. And so everyone has to go to master to even see those. And this is a problem with how our docs are versioned alongside SALT itself. And that's part of the ongoing effort with the SALT user guide, is to hopefully is to start to pull stuff out so that people aren't accidentally maybe looking at incorrect docs too. So there's a few things going on there that may be leading to the navigation confusion.
Awesome. Thanks for that, Derek.
yeah. And with that working group, for the docs working group, we did a docs jam, and we really got a really big start on the new user guide, and looking to also change some other things there and do a lot more work. And so that's an ongoing effort, as well as, like Derek talked about, with the versioning. And then as we have those versions of docs that are out on repo, and we go to archive those and that use there, and to looking to make that better too. And that's some ongoing efforts. Let's see. I've seen comments regarding ease of entry into the docs, like someone saying today that the salt mine wasn't mentioned at all anywhere in the tutorial. I know the docs are a lot of effort, but this is just something I wanted to make a note of. So we use a custom search. If you can't find something, to then use that custom search, but you do have to know specific words, I guess, but salt mine should bring it up. And then we are looking to make that easier to dive into. And that's sort of that more ongoing effort that the docs working group and the docs jam had. And so let's see. Yeah, custom search is amazing at showing stuff from Google that's nothing to do with salt. The custom search that's on the page should actually give you some of it.
Well, the first
I don't
few are
actually know.
ads, and then you keep scrolling down and you get to the actual links.
Yeah. Historically, I think a lot of people don't even use the search we have on our site, that because it's such a poor experience that it sounds, from people I've talked to, it sounds like most people end up just going to Google itself or
really?
to DuckDuckGo.
Yeah, you can do the usually what I end up doing is DuckDuckGo with the little bang thing that does the kind of like the I'm feeling lucky thing, top result, and then I'll type in, salt.modules.yum package or whatever, right? And then that'll take me right to the docs page.
We know that
Yeah.
that custom Google search is not the greatest, and we're looking at other options there as well.
I'm wondering, so this is being rendered using Sphinx. I thought Sphinx provided a search.
They do. We weren't on a version of Sphinx to use that until recently, and I think we still
Okay.
have some work to do with our theme in order to use that, but we've looked at that and would like to move to it. Or at least try it out and test it, see if that works for our needs. I actually would love to think about the table of contents and how the table of contents is laid out, and maybe we could make that better so that you could easily navigate the docs without a search engine. That's my thought. Why don't we fix the table of contents? But you know, pie in the sky, I also like ponies and unicorns and other things too. Cupcakes.
We do
Bitcoins.
later today, by the way, we do have a docs working group.
Right.
A lot of
Please
this,
join us.
yeah, most of this is that we need some incredible help with it. And there's like a lot of ongoing stuff where the SALT user guide exists, but SALT user guide exists right now in GitLab and on GitLab pages. It's not yet integrated into the doc set. And so we're looking at, okay, how do we want to integrate that into the docs? And how do we want to create the unified experience to where we could start pulling certain topics into there? What would it look like to then do certain table of contents things? How do we improve the search? The list is really, really huge. And so there are a lot of issues related to docs, but the problem is we need a lot of help and a lot of people who maybe know or are willing to want to learn and dive into Sphinx. And yeah, and hope, and I know that we're trying to see if we can get maybe a dedicated tech writer. I'm trying to also send a proposal to the Google season of docs to see if we can get someone during the season of docs period this year to also be dedicated to help with certain things.
We find that we get a lot of feedback about documentation, about how the docs exist today and how changes could be made, but we don't get a ton of people that are willing to commit their time and as resources to the working group or to the project itself. And so we often find that it's the core team that's making a lot of those updates, and we need the community, we need this working group. And so even if it's one small PR at a time, we'll take it. We would love it. And we hope to be, as we're in planning right now for the Silicon release cycle, that releases in the end of June. I am also looking at some dates for a triage jam, another docs jam, probably a ports to master jam that will include writing tests, and some other things as well. I think last time and the time before we talked a little bit about SALT extensions, and we will probably include some things about that as well. We're looking at what that looks like as an event, maybe more ongoing than a one-time event. And that first event is probably going to be the end of March, where we'll kind of do just this is kind of a learning. We'll open it up and just kind of say, this is what it is. And then from there, we'll start writing some documentation, and there should be some more events coming after that. So there's more ways to be involved, and that is coming, and those dates will be on the website. So please join us there.
Would any of those you just mentioned be considered kind of a general, just a coding jam?
Mm-hmm. A lot of
Okay.
those will be
That's
more
what
just
I
general.
was interested in is
Yeah.
something similar to the docs jam, but for just getting their feet wet with the entire process for
Absolutely.
contributing.
Quick question. When will the code freeze be done? I assume sometime after the release. Because I've got like 4 or 5 docs PRs that are waiting to be merged in, and then I've got a couple more coming, as well as some other PRs. So I was just kind of curious when we can start seeing PRs being merged back in.
Oh, who wants to talk about this? This is an exciting thing. I mean, I can talk about it.
I can talk about it if nobody else.
Okay. Go ahead, Wayne.
Yeah, so this will probably be exciting to you, Gary, because it solves your issue. Where in the past we have been completely freezing the master branch and then just doing our release based off of there. So obviously that creates a bit of back pressure on PRs getting merged in. We just recently decided and implemented the change where our release branch, we're creating a branch called freeze. I think we actually published this on the blog on the website. But the process is that master will continue to be able to move forward. And then if there are any issues that come up during the triage, or not the triage, but the RC process, then those issues will be fixed on master and then cherry picked into the freeze branch so that they're able to be released. So we'll be building off of the release branch, and then as soon as we're done with the whole release and the point release, then we'll make sure that gets merged back into master. But there shouldn't be any changes hanging out from that anyways, because we're just cherry picking the changes over. But yeah, so that will be I think very helpful for folks like your case, where it's like, oh, I've got all these docs PRs that like that's super easy. It's it shouldn't be blocking anything, but we had to wait in times past. But now we'll be able to go ahead and merge those in and not have to inflict freezing on the main line of development. So
that's wonderful. I assume though there's probably still a bit of a bottleneck in terms of actually having, if all you guys are focused on release, I assume there's probably going to still be a bit of a bottleneck in terms of getting people to actually merge them.
That's true. And something that we've talked about that I would like to move forward on, that I don't know that this is a working group, but this is more of just a group of people that have access to some sort of group that we could ask for them to review PRs. And I don't know what that looks like today. I don't know how we would implement that exactly, but we would really like to move forward, especially to use a lot of the expertise that's within our greater community to get PRs reviewed faster and to help with moving that forward and to undoing some of that bottleneck that's happening there. And that's one idea.
Just from an informal, whatever, I don't even know what you would call this, but currently within GitHub, anybody can push the approve button. It doesn't mean anything programmatically. So it doesn't like allow you to go ahead and merge it, but anybody can click approve, or they can also go in and review the PR. So if you are interested in contributing, but maybe you don't have time to write code, or you don't have time to kind of go through that iterative process, that is a way that you are able to contribute, and you can just go find an open PR, especially if there's not really any activity on it, and go through and review it. Step through the code, check it out locally, run the tests, poke around and try and break things and make sure that everything is the, looks good. And if you're able to say, hey, I did this and things look good, that makes it easier on the core team when it comes time to actually go ahead and merge it, or for us to come in and review it when we see that, oh, 2 or 3 community members have picked this up. They've looked at it, and there's nothing that they caught. So now it's like, oh, well, I can, if it's something like a doc, then it's like, oh, well, cool. I don't need to really dig deep into this. But if it's something like code, it's like, okay, well, I know that at least the high level things have been taken care of, and now it's just up to saying, okay, does this really, is there anything that somebody else would not have caught before going ahead and merging that or approving it ourselves? So being able to contribute in that way would be very welcome. And doesn't require any changes to anything right now.
All I heard is you want me to go click approve a couple hundred times.
Well, it's available to you. No, I
You're
think
welcome.
that I think there's a lot of people, Cody, you included in this, that we would love to have you review some things, because you bring a lot of value that we just don't have on the team to reviewing that stuff that is just amazing. And so
I
if
have
you're
you
willing to do that,
all
it'd be
fooled
great.
on a great level here, apparently.
I understand, but you know.
Thank you for that, Sage.
I'm not
But, you
fooled.
know-
I see through the lies, Cody.
There's a lot, there's a lot of you. Yeah, there's a lot. And even within sort of employees of greater Salt Stack, I would love to have reviews from more people, especially if it's a piece of the code base that you're really familiar with. We'd love to have that, because it's invaluable to get that other take on it. I think that we have a necessity to open that up more. I don't know how to garner that more than just telling everybody, please go review PRs. We would love to have some more reviews there. And I think it does need something else. I'm not sure what that is today, but we're looking at that.
Yeah, and
Go ahead.
to I did definitely want to make sure to give a shout out to both Gary and Jim, who have been coming to the docs working groups and have both been involved in the conversations and in contributing to the work there. Jim specifically more on the Salt user guide side of the fence, and Gary with a kind of a handful of other things in the Salt repo too, in addition to the docs jam. And AP, who I haven't really interacted with too much since the docs jam. He also contributed quite a bit there.
Yeah, we've had some wonderful contributions, and from that's where we would just love to see them again. And so I do think that those individual like code jams are a really good way to go. And so we need to get those on the calendar and get those planned. We will.
And I might reach out to Sage, because I have built a template to create like 100 issues from the epic that I have. And so there may be a point, and then I don't know when I'll have time to write the script to do it, but it may flood the issue pool.
Cool. That sounds really great though. And I did create a project for Salt Docs that's at the org level, and need to put some issues in there. And you'll see that today before the docs working group, and we'll start using that as documentation tickets and issues and PRs and part of the working group tasks. We'll make that better today. Any other questions, comments, concerns?
Hey, Sage, I joined, finally was able to get on one of these.
Welcome, Nick.
So I just wanted to drop in, say hi, see what everything was about. So
Welcome. Would you like to introduce yourself to the community?
yes,
Community, this is Nick.
community. So I'm new both to Salt and to VMware, but I am the, for better or for worse, I'm the product line manager for Salt Stack Config, as well as for the VRE integrations, Ansible and Puppet. So interested, any feedback, I'll try and make these calls when I can, or I'm sure drop a note to Sage or directly to me, and love to have a conversation and get some insight for those of you that, have ideas above and beyond just the base of Salt. I love what the community is doing, and it further just empowers some of the stuff we're doing at the enterprise level. So yeah.
Awesome.
Thank you, Nick.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Sage, actually, there was one thing I wanted to bring up that I keep forgetting, and because Gary was running into this a few times, but it's not just Gary, but this has been an ongoing thing in Salt, is how we currently have the pre-commits rewrite the Python files so
Yes.
that when you make like a minor docs change,
Mhm.
let's say you change one line, it'll actually then change the entire file and a whole lot of lines. And then it becomes hard for anyone doing a PR review to even kind of see what was the intentional change and what was the automated change. And people are each having to come up with their own custom ways to work around this, where some people are then going, oh, okay, what I do now is I purposely skip pre-commit on my first one, and then I do the pre-commit run on the second run so that it's separate commits. And other people, though, I mean, this is an extra step that's technically undocumented if you did it that way to try to make it easier. So I didn't know if, and I think this has been brought up a few times in conversation before, and that we haven't done it because we didn't want to, was it that we didn't want to do a mass change to the code base that would cause problems with existing PRs, but then as a result cause funky stuff in all new PRs? Or I'm not sure the best wording or the way to really explain, hey, by the way, this is why this is happening and why we've made the decision to do it this way.
I mean, there's precedent for affecting the entire code base at once with the application of Black. So it's not like it hasn't been done before.
Right. Yeah, that's right. With how Black was done, and then people could go and find out, oh, this was part of the automated change. Otherwise, now you go to someone's PR, you go to someone's commit history, and you see that this one person made the change, but really they just made a one-line change, not the entire. It's kind of, it makes it a bit messy.
Do you have that issue handy, Derek? Because didn't we write an issue on it?
No, I don't have a specific issue on it, actually. It's just, it's
Oh,
just,
I'm probably referencing a comment in a PR or something.
yeah, you may be. Oh yeah, I mean, I could show the initial PR where I first had that conversation with Gary and kind of in order to highlight like what were his changes and what were the changes by pre-commit to try to just make the PR easier to review. I think it was the one on the state's firewall D, but it's technically, I mean, it's every single PR that is hitting a file that hasn't had the pre-commit run against it before. So there we go.
Yeah.
It's Black and it does all the Pi3 migration stuff.
Yep. And that means, and docs changes include doc strings. And so this happens pretty much if we're updating doc strings across a few files, let's say. Like I have a URL auditor that I've been running to where I'm like, oh, cool, I can go and then update these URLs across a bunch of files. But then it might change, my PR ends up looking gigantic because it's running all the pre-commit changes against all the Python files. And then it becomes hard for anyone to actually parse what exactly it was that I've really changed.
Well, once you've seen enough of them, you start to recognize what the Pi3 stuff is, and then you can find the changes. But it does take some getting used to.
And the other part, or negative, is that is exactly one of the reasons that we went ahead and just used one fell swoop to blacken everything, was because now you get blamed for you're responsible for changing 700 lines in a file when you really only changed 2, and they were both documentation lines.
Yeah, and technically even existing PRs are probably broken due to any new introduction to pre-commit updates, because if they rebase from master, now they have to locally, or someone has to push to their PR all the pre-commit updates that in order to pass those failures.
Yeah. Honestly, I kind of feel like, I don't know, maybe it's wrong. Maybe it's a just a gut reaction that's wrong. But I feel like at this point, many, if not most people who are contributing after, you know, this whole shift from to when we started using Black and pre-commit and everything, it kind of feels like at this point everybody should be at least most of the way on board with it. So I don't think that, you know, doing another huge change and reformatting all the files would be a big problem for most people. I mean, granted, all the ones that exist will still have to be rebased and there's that mess, but you know, they kind of have to do that anyways. So I don't know if that's a reason to not do it.
Yeah, I think that it's more reason to really plan it out well. When we're going to do it, announce it, maybe even hold a code jam to do such things, and do it there. Yeah. Yeah, and Derek will have to look at that timing. Maybe that's something to do in the working group or the clinic at some point.
To look at the timing of the
what change we would make and when, and how we would go about it. Sort of the different steps that would need to happen once we decide. I guess we would need to decide exactly what we're going to do, and then we would need to decide when, and then how we want to roll that out. Would we do it, you know, at a time like now, where we're at sort of the beginning of a release cycle, the end of the other one, or would that happen at a different time, and then communicate that out?
So on that note, if we decide that it should be on the start of a new release cycle, we should also do the final Python 2 drop migration and take the time to make all of the changes at one time.
Sure.
I honestly think it should be done at the start of a release cycle.
Okay.
Gives us more time to
Bake
see
in
any
the
problems,
changes.
which
Sure.
Yeah, we did that when we converted to using Black as well. We did that at the beginning of a release cycle, and I think that was the right idea. Just because it gives us the most runway to figure out that we did something wrong or whatever.
Yep. Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. But yeah, something to kind of hammer out, I think, in the working group, or maybe the clinic. Seems like the working group might be more appropriate, but
well, because this wouldn't, at least it wouldn't, not the docs though, not the docs working group or clinic, because this isn't doc specific.
true.
This is like, since it's entire code base specific.
That's true. I guess maybe it would be in the planning meeting, wouldn't it? I will put it on the agenda.
Yeah, I would definitely need to be part of that. Yeah.
Yep. I think I actually have it there now that I'm saying that. We just haven't gotten to it in, I think, a week or two. Anything else to go over? We're I think at the top of the hour, so it would need to be quick. I don't want to just suddenly adjourn. Well, thank you everybody for joining the community open hour. This has been absolutely wonderful. And I hope everybody has a great rest of their day wherever you are in the world, and happy Thursday.
Bye.
Bye.